Hanggang sa kasalukuyan, marami pa ring hindi makapaniwala na mga netizens, lalo na ang mga Pilipinong ipinagkatiwala ang boto nila dito kay Senator Loren Legarda. Pero bago ang lahat, kung hindi ka pa nakakapag-subscribe sa aking channel, please do subscribe at click notification bell para mas lagi kang updated sa mga susunod kong mga videos. Nagiging usapin ngayon sa mundo ng social media influencer, mga vlogger at mga content creator, subalit kung mapapansin tila patay mali siya rito ang mainstream media. At mas nakatuon pa nga ang ilang balita sa isang aktor na di umano'y nang bastos ng isang babaeng artista, katulad nito sa pananahimik ni Senator Loren Legarda noon sa mga insidenteng karahasan, kinasasangkutan ng mga NPA na kung saan hinayagan itong inamin ng kaisa siya ng mga ito at ipinagtatanggol pa nga niya. Ayon nga sa komento ni Edwin Zamora, masaya nito si Loren Lorencinta. Nakakalimutan na siya ang bayan dahil may bago ng isyu. Ha 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 ha. Ang well-known former highest NPA commander at ngayon ay journalist sa Manila Times na si Rigoberto Tiglao ay dinebunk si Senator Loren Legarda sa kanyang pahayag. Itang binitawan ni Loren ay sinagot nga ni Ambassador Tiglao na sinang-ayunan naman ni atty.NICK Nanyat. Narito ang pag-debunk ng article ni Commander Tiglao kay Senator Loren Legarda. 53 years since the Communist Party launched a conspiracy to topple our democratic government through force, killing over 14,000 of the Republic's soldiers and police, I find it scandalous for a senator of the Republic to claim that the scourge of this land is merely fighting for social justice. I am referring to Senator Loren Legarda, who in a speech the other day in Congress, a prime symbol of democracy, also said, referring to the Reds believing in policies and philosophies that may be left of center, so to speak, does not make anyone subversive. This is not just Dave, but plain ignorant. The Communist Party is not just believing in policies and philosophies which they only have sketches of. It is trying to overthrow by force our democracy, even if much of it is the kind of celebrity politics that catapult the TV broadcaster to a seat in the Senate of our republic. Didn't she take some course for her master in National Security Administration at the National Defense College that would have informed her that the Communist Party is far from being left of center but is now in the lunatic radical left range, since only 3 active communist parties still believe in Mao Zedong too. It is scandalous for Legarda to claim in her press release that they are many faceless, nameless heroes, having celebrated National Heroes Day last Monday, who may be associated with the Communist Party of the Philippines. What? It is only the CPP's propaganda fronts, especially the Bantayog ng mga bayani, which have rottenly included in its roster of heroes and PE commanders and CCP cadres. It is shameful for Legarda, as a reservist with the rank of colonel, technically a part of the armed force of the Philippines, to look at the Reds as some kind of heroes who are merely fighting for social justice when the NPA has killed, based on armed forms documented reports, 14,000 soldiers and officers of our military. include probably other 6,000 policemen executed by the NPA and its Alex Bancayao Brigade and Legarda's heroes have killed 20,000 of our uniformed men who were defending the Republic. Propagandists, how many really do those read propagandists claim were killed by forces of the martial law regime? We have an available quantifications 2,326. This is the number of those killed during martial law that the Human Rights Compensations Claims Board identified and ordered that compensations of 1 million be made to their relatives. Except probably for 100, these were not summarily executed but killed in firefights with the AFP. About half of these thoughts, as quantified in previous columnists, were casualties of the Muslims insurgencies, the Moro National Liberation Fronts, and the Moro Islamic Liberation Fronts. The CPP even demonstrated its bloodlust when it tortured and executed in the 1980s more than 4,000 of its own members for being alleged government spies, a claim that has been uncontrovertibly proven false and Legarda speaks of them as. I stand here as someone who has worked with the so-called left, and there's nothing wrong with that. Legarda boasted in her speech she was referring to the peace talks with the CPP that she was involved in. But there was something deeply wrong with the peace talks. This gave the CPP and PE much needed, even desperately needed, breathing space during which they strengthened their communications network and consolidated their armed force, since every time there were peace talks, the military stopped all their offensives against the NPA. Consultants. The CPP declared all of its top leaders, they say all of its Central Committee members, as NDF peace talks consultants. It took decades for the military to arrest the CPP chairman who succeeded Jose Marie Sison, Benito Tiamson, and his wife Welma Austria, the party general secretary. They are released on grounds that they were NDF consultants. After a holiday in Norway to attend one session of the peace talks, they returned the country to resume their leadership of the party. Legarda must be proud of that achievement. All of us indeed start as idealists, but nobody can evade human nature. Most, if not all, Communist Party leaders become egoist megalomaniacs after having tested that power of life over death when they order the execution of class enemies and having control of people and events. Sison and his tiny cabal were proud that they changed history like gods when they successfully undertook the Plaza Miranda bombing. Just listen to Sison's many interviews on YouTube, and ego is just oozing from this evil man. Biographies written by former communists are pians for themselves, not just narrating how they were bold crusaders, but how they ran the revolution. One of Sison's books is titled The Philippine Revolution, The Leader's View. It must be the NDA of communist or any party engaged in armed struggle if leaders become megalomaniacs, as Stalin and Mao Zedong demonstrated with the masses and students they lead becoming unconscious pawns. Dictatorship. If I sound angry or Legarda and her inane views of the CPP, I certainly am. It is because hers is the kind of view that the CPP since 1969 has used to justify its bloody program to capture political power and establish its one-party dictatorship and recruit thousands of young idealists only to die uselessly. I had thought that view had long been shredded and burned to ashes. Or maybe Legarda was deeply impressed with Sison when she interviewed him in the 1980s, which hasn't dissipated after all these years. That's a better explanation than a usual one on why many politicians don't dare cross the CPP, and even help them. The Reds have a command vote of about 1 million, and more importantly, a formidable propaganda machine. Watch how the Reds propaganda machine, including the columnists at the Philippine Daily Inquirer, start to work overtime praising Legarda as she icing the presidency in 2028. Because protecting the environment is their advocacy of choice, Legarda must have been seduced by the CPP's claim of being greenist. Doesn't Legarda know that the CPP's finances in the 1970s came other than from the Liberal Party leaders, mostly from loggers who denuded the countryside? Isn't she wondering why Surigao, Samar, and areas close to mines have become the centers of NPA activity? The Republic has to have a very strong national consensus to defeat the Reds, as all democratic countries in Asia did decades ago. Legarda should be ashamed of herself for trying to prevent that. Narito naman ang komento ni atty.NICK sa pasabog ni Rigoberto Tiglao. Social justice, may hunyango sa pamahalaan na binibigyan pa ng katuwiran ang pagkakaroon ng CPP, NPA at NDEF o yung kolektibang tinatawag na CTG, pero baluktot naman. Bakit? Kasi apaka-stupid niya para dumakdak nang hindi nalalamang may kahulugan na at tinutukoy ang social justice. Ayon sa Sec 2 Article 13 ng Constitution, ito ay para sa mga pagkakaroon ng oportunidad sa ekonomiya base sa inisyatibong malaya at sa mga sariling asa. Ayon din sa Korte Suprema sa 1940 na kasong Kalalang v. Williams, ito ay hindi komunismo, at sa 2021 na kasong Kaleha versus Executive Secretary ay constitutional ang Anti-Terrorism Act, maliban sa dalawang probesyon nito na hindi naman binabago ang kahulugan nito. May kalayaan bang isinusulong ang CTG? Makakaasa ba sa sariling pagsisikap ang mga mamamayan? Pantay-pantay ba mga puwersa ng lipunan at ekonomiya para sa katamihikan ng lahat? Hindi. Higit sa 50 taon nang naglilinlan ang CTG, pumapatay ng mga militar, kapulisan at sarili nilang hanay, at pinapasok ang akademya, relihiyon, media at pamahalaan para bigyang daan ang paniniwala nilang baluktot at palagpasin ang karahasan sa anyong panlipunang katarungan daw ito. At yun na nga, lumantad ang hitad na isinusulong ang kabaluktutan ng organisasyong kalaban ng Estado. Hindi nga lang siya mapapatalsik sa pwesto dahil kalayaan niyang pumutak, at malabong idisiplina siya ng kanyang mga kasamahan dahil nga sa tayo-tayo na sistema. Hindi rin siya makakasuhan sa ilalim ng ATE dahil wala namang hayagang pagbibigay ng suportang pinansyal o material. Kung rerepasuhin man ang ATE, yun ay para idagdag sa mga salot na gawain ang suportang kinikilingan pa ang terorista ng mga nasa pamahalaan. Let's see ka, demonyo ka. Anong masasabi nyo mga ka-Armor TV sa balitang ito? Just comment down below at huwag kalimutang mag-subscribe at click notification bell para mas lagi kang updated sa mga ilalabas kong mga videos.